We encounter the Sophists in Plato's Apology and in many of Plato's other dialogues. They're a constant theme of Plato. He engages very much with this profession of ancient Greece. Now, the Sophists were maybe something of a combination, a hybrid, you could think of them, of lawyers and self-help gurus. They did fulfill a certain function for higher education, for supply of higher education in some of the more advanced societies in ancient Greece, when a need for education beyond the traditional types of education was felt. Many of the Sophists were civically engaged in various ways in politics and other aspects of the society. The Sophists were professional teachers. They would go from town to town and they would offer courses. Their courses were on many different things, but focused primarily and especially on persuasion, on rhetoric, and debate. There were some Sophists who became quite wealthy at this profession as well, which means that there was indeed a market for them. There were people who are willing to pay, young men who are willing to pay handsome sums for education under the direction of a famous sophist. Now, one of the reasons for this, there are two venues basically, I think, where this comes to an advantage. One is in the political arena. In a city like Athens, where you have an assembly where every citizen is automatically a member of the assembly, we have a society with a direct democracy. This did not mean, of course, in ancient Athens that the entire population had an equal voice in the assembly. The number of citizens was still a minority of the city. Women didn't count as citizens. Foreigners, even if you were born in Athens, did not count as citizens. Slaves didn't count as citizens, and so on. So there weren't all that many citizens, 10 to 15% maybe or so, among the ancient Athenians, but every citizen had an equal voice in the assembly. That, of course, doesn't mean that every citizen had equal power in the assembly. And so the ability to speak and the ability to be persuasive was important and something that one would be willing to pay for in getting an education. Ancient Athens was also a very litigious society, and so this is also another venue where the skills of the Sophists came in useful. Now, under ancient Athenian law, if you had to stand before the court accused, you had to speak on your own behalf. You couldn't have someone represent you. What you could do, however, is you could hire a sophist who could write a speech for you and then train you in how to deliver it, how to be persuasive. So the Sophists were specialists in rhetoric and persuasion, and this is the source of the complaint that Plato has against the Sophists. His rebuke against the Sophists is that the Sophists are not concerned with truth. They are only concerned with appearance and persuasion. Now, we've seen one of the most famous of the ancient Sophists, and one that you've read a little bit about, and one that Plato also wrote a dialogue about, is the sophist Protagoras. The most famous line that survives from Protagoras' book is his statement that man is the measure of all things, of things that are, that they are, and of things that are not, that they are not. Protagoras advocates a radical relativism, more radical than a relativism that asserts that values and morals are relative to particular societies, that what is esteemed and valued in one society may be anathema in another society. A relativism that asserts that anything that is believed is true to that person by the fact that it is believed. Belief is enough to guarantee truth. Now, if I alone believe something to be true, and according to Protagoras, it is therefore true for me, but everybody else believes something different, then I may not be able to act very much on my belief, however convinced I am of its truth. However, if I can persuade everyone of the truth of my belief, then it is true as far as everyone is concerned. Now, the Sophists were a very diverse group of people. This does not represent any one philosophical school. They don't have any kind of common doctrine. They don't necessarily all believe the same things. However, Protagoras' relativism could, in a way, be taken as a kind of a theory or a justification of sophistry. If Plato's argument against the Sophists is that the Sophists disregard truth in favor of mere appearance in order to pursue material gain, and if it's the case, as Parmenides argues, that there is no difference between truth and belief, what seems good to one is good, if that's the case, then Protagoras' argument pulls the ground out from under Plato's objection. If there is no difference between truth and belief, then the claim that the Sophists are only concerned with persuasion and nothing else is not an objection to what they are doing.